Good evening, 33 years in 31 days, day 13 of these set of live broadcasts for January, looking at the 33 years of my policing career. Welcome along, those of you in here. Just take that banner off the bottom. You no longer need to know that you need to grab a coffee, do we? There. Good evening, everyone. Neil Jewson Smith, welcome along. Replay viewers, thank you for dropping in. And here we are with 2002. So recap very quickly on yesterday. First child born 2001, so I'm a new dad. And we're into the first year of looking after our first child and everything. And I'd been rejected by Cheshire Police. I was rejected in 2002, or was it 2001? No, I was rejected 2001. But better the devil that I knew, and I stayed with Greater Manchester Police because it was easier in many regards than trying to challenge the decision that Cheshire had made, and I was quite happy with that. 2002. Going to focus on two stories today that both follow the same road safety measure, and I'm pretty sure that the second story was 2002. Pretty sure it was. The first story, there or thereabouts, not entirely positive, but there or thereabouts. But what it does is it will hopefully, obviously, as I've said throughout, once I became a road policing officer, the road safety ethic threads its way into the very being of who you are. You can't just let road safety go. When you've dealt with fatal collisions and scraped people up off the road, and tried to resolve some of those issues where you're dealing with the consequences of poor driving, you cannot help but become a road safety advocate. And you don't lose that, which is why I'm so very much involved with road safety now, and will continue to be involved in road safety because I'm passionate about it and it's important. So I'm going to focus today on one road safety topic, and it's one of the main reasons for people dying on our roads, and it's so simple to do, and yet so many people don't do it. So stick the picture up, and there it is. We all know what it is. Seatbelt, 3-point seatbelt, and it's an offence not to wear one. And without going into the ins and outs of the complications of exemptions and different types of vehicles and all the rest of it, but basically, if there's a seatbelt fitted, put the thing on. Because it's one of the most vital pieces of safety equipment that is in the car. And so we're looking at the seatbelt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relay a story about a collision that happened in Manchester, just to give you a perspective from what I used to see. And one of the reasons if you can hear the dog and a funny tapping noise, she's got a toy and she's playing and walking up and down, because we've got a wooden floor. You can probably hear all the tapping and what have you, but for that I apologize. Anyway, so I'll tell you this story about a collision and why seatbelts are important. So in 2002 or there or thereabouts, we were called to a collision. We get to the scene of the collision. It's a fatal. It's a fail to stop collision, in that one car has failed to stop at the scene, and we've got a 4-wheel drive type vehicle on its side, with 4 wheels off the road. And after a great deal of investigation and a great deal of work with the accident investigation branch, we eventually established what had happened. Gentleman in the four-wheel drive, who had been at work during the day, had decided it was going to pop out to the petrol station to get some bits and pieces for lunch or a shop or whatever. Wherever he went, he popped out at lunchtime. And he was only going a short way, so he didn't put his seatbelt on. And he drove down to the shop and did what he had to do and all the rest of it, and he got his lunch and he was heading back to work. And he was heading back to work down this straight road in Moss Side, no seatbelt, sunny day, window down, minding his own business, perfectly happy. Only a short drive, no seatbelt. Unbeknownst to him, earlier that day, some young miscreant, in fact, he wasn't that young in the end, but some miscreant had stolen a car. And he was driving this car in the Moss Side area and decided that he was going to drive like an idiot. And he went straight through. He was driving down the road and went straight through a giveaway and straight across the crossroads, straight through, across the main road, across the giveaway. And he went into the path and struck the four-wheel drive that our chap coming back from the shop was driving. Struck it. So car's coming along. How am I going to do this now? Car's coming along like this, and our guy in the stolen car goes boom and hits it. He, stolen car, carries on. Fails to stop, carries on. This car spins around, hits the curbs, flips onto its side. Unfortunately, our driver wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Had he been wearing his seatbelt, when we got to the scene of the collision, he would have been hanging upside down in his seat, but he would have been there. Unfortunately, because he didn't have his window, because he didn't have his seatbelt on, and because the window was open, the force of the collision and the fact that the vehicle was going over, and it must have gone teetering before it went, because he fell out of the car, out of the window, but as he fell out of the window, the car came down and it crushed him, trapped him completely, smashed his body to pieces. So he'd basically fallen out of the window just immediately prior to the vehicle toppling over and crushing him. And he was killed. I didn't pick up that collision. One of the other lads picked that up. And to be fair, it was a fail to stop. I knew it was really hard work, but I think eventually he got him. But regardless, the important message from that is that you must wear a seatbelt, because that unexpected thing can happen, and suddenly your whole short drive has turned into a disaster that could have been avoided. The whole thing could have been avoided if somebody hadn't stolen the car in the first place, but the fatality would not have happened had he been wearing his seatbelt. He'd have been trapped in his car, probably hanging upside down, but he'd have been there and he'd have been alive. So it was an awful collision in a big residential area with lots of people stood around just looking and going, just horrified. We had to sort of try and cover the scene as best as we could because it was awful. But there you go, wear your seatbelt. So if we go back to where we started and we talk about how road safety ingrains itself into what you do. So in 2002, story number 2, I'm parked up in Wythenshawe. The morning rush hour. Now she's going to play with the squeaky toy. This is not going to go down well at all, is it? So 2002, day shift, morning rush hour has been and gone past, and I'm now parked up on the side of a main road in Wythenshawe. It's a residential street, but on the side. See, this is This is what we're up against, and now she wants it. So I'm going to have to see how we do without it. So, parked up by the side of this main road, and I've done a little bit of paperwork, and then I'm just sat there and I'm watching the traffic going by. And I'm thinking, sooner or later, I will see something that's going to be worth a stop and a chat with the driver. Be that a really poor condition car, somebody driving too fast, somebody not wearing the seatbelt, whatever it happens to be, something will go past. So I'm sat there and I'm just watching the world go by, minding my own business, and a car goes past. And he goes past me from left to right, which is the wrong way for you. That's my left. But he goes left to right, and I can see the driver quite clearly, and he's not got his seatbelt on. So I think seatbelts, really important, so important that people wear them. Let's go and have a word with this chap. So I pull out, I follow him down this road, I'm right behind him, and he turns left into another street. So I turn left into the street behind him, follow him along. I'm just about to light him up to say stop when he turns into the driveway of a house. So I thought, oh, he's home. So I pulled up and got out of the car. He got out of the car and walked straight to his front door and was going in. I said, excuse me, I just need to have a word with you. Ooh, he went off like a bottle of pop. He swore at me. He said he was doing nothing wrong. I had nothing to speak to him about. He went off on a complete and utter rant, quite aggressive. So I walked onto his driveway and said to him, look, don't go in. I need to speak to you because I just want to have a chat with you about something. He comes right up face to face with me and starts forcing me backwards off his drive and into the road. Situation is developing. I'm, the world's worst enemy. I am effing this. I am effing that. I've got no powers. Leave him alone. Blah, 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 blah. It's getting out of hand. So I shouted and I said, I'm on such and such a road. I need some backup, please. I've got an aggressive driver. The dog wants the thing. Look. There she is. Go on. I'm going to regret that, aren't I? So he's really aggressive. I've shouted for backup, but he's clearly not going to back down from this. He's not going to calm down. So I warn him. I gave him a public order warning. I said, look, you need to calm that behavior down. Mothers coming back from dropping children at school, walking down the road, seeing this performance that was going on, people peering around curtains, causing a disturbance and putting me under some severe threat. I'm thinking I'm going to get my head kicked in a minute here. And for what? So I'll have to take that offer. There, I'm losing track of my thoughts now because of this stuff with the dog. So there I am. Backup has been requested. He's been given the public order warning. He's still coming at me. He's still swearing and shouting. I'm still under threat. And in the end, I think, you know what? I'm reaching for my cuffs. And we had now got the speed cuffs or the quick cuffs, the rigid cuffs. We'd gone from the two loose link ones that we used to carry in a little pouch to the rigid cuffs. And I'd made a decision, this fella's coming in. And he's coming right at me and he's right in my face and he puts his arm up towards me. And as he puts his arm up towards me, I held the cuff and just went, one, on. Slammed it onto his wrist, locked it through with the other hand, and he got one cuff on. So there he is with one cuff, and what then seems like about a 10-second pause, which would only have been a fraction of a second. But he's a huge bloke. He's a big, heavy-set bloke, arms like tree trunks and stuff. And I've got this cuff on, and I say to him, and he looks at the cuff, and he looks at me, and looks back at the cuff and goes, "What are you going to do now, then?" And it was a real sort of challenge, sort of like, you think that's going to stop me, because I'm skinny and weedy. I've never had a great deal of upper body strength. I've always had very strong legs from my running and my hockey work and all the rest of it. But my upper arms and stuff were always weak and still are. And I thought it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And he looked at me, and in my training with the cuffs, I kept thinking. Training said that once you've got that cuff on, you can just use it as a lever and use it to pull somebody to the floor. And the power of the kinetic energy and the physical hand, the cuffs on, and if you bend that hand backwards, you have to go with it. So that's what I did. I'd got the top cuff on. I pulled the bottom cuff towards me, pushed down on his hand hard, and he dropped to the floor like a sack of spuds. At which point, fortunately, a CID detective from Wythenshawe had come round the corner in his plain car in response to the backup call and piled in, and we got hold of this fella and got him cuffed up, took him to custody. He went to custody. He wasn't drunk or anything else like that. He was perfectly fine, so he got processed very quickly and sort of. Now she's found another squeaky thing. This is not a good day for live broadcasting. So he got processed straight away, and he was the very first person that I ever issued a fixed penalty notice for public order to. They hadn't long since been introduced. And the sergeant said to me, well, he's got no previous, there's nothing else to be concerned about, and give him a ticket. I'm like, oh, give him a P&D. Yeah, you can give him a fixed penalty notice for public order. He got his fixed penalty notice, and he was ready to go. And as we walked out of custody and into the corridor, he said, just stop. And we were walking, so we stopped, and he said, I want to apologise. So I said, oh, right, okay, go on. So he then goes on to apologise to me and says that his behaviour was completely and utterly unacceptable. He was absolutely beside himself with embarrassment about how he behaved. And I said, I understand. I said, I've dealt with situations like this before, and I will no doubt deal with situations like this again. But, thank you for saying so. So I said, I then looked at him and I said, shall I tell you what? I said, on the basis that you're being honest and open and remorseful with me, I said, I'll let you into a little secret. And he goes, what's that? I said, I saw you were wearing no seatbelt. I said, I followed you down onto Road X. I said, but when you pulled onto your drive, I thought, you're home. I'll just give you a word of advice and go on my way. So I'd already decided, the minute he pulled on his drive, I'd already decided that he wasn't getting a ticket and he wasn't going to be prosecuted. I was going to say, look, just be mindful that you should be wearing your seatbelt. It really is important and it could save your life. Take care, have a good day, see you. He ended up with a criminal record and a fixed penalty notice for public order. And he was just even more embarrassed and ashamed at that point. But it was quite a scary moment for a while. So there you go. 2 stories from 2002. The importance of wearing a seatbelt and how things can escalate massively from what would seem to be a simple quarter-mile drive to a shop on a sunny day with no seatbelt because it's only a short journey. Nothing's going to happen between here and there, is it? And how some people can really, really overreact to the presence of the police officer and the challenge that you present just by your physical presence, that can lead people to all sorts of violence and aggression that is just unjustified and unnecessary. But yeah, fortunately that detective wasn't very far away and got to me quickly, because there was a moment where I thought, I'm going to get absolutely pasted here. This all for a seatbelt. You say when you join the police that every day is different. You never know what's around the next corner, and you really, really do not know what's around the next corner. You know, these days I sort of imagine that scenario with somebody coming out and he does the same thing, but whips a great big machete out of his trousers. So many people carrying knives these days. It's scary. But there we go. 33 years in 31 days, day 13, looking at 2002. Andrea, Jenny, good evening, Cyclist London. Good to have you all along. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for day 14, looking at 2003. 2003, quite possibly the worst. Yeah, not the worst year. I don't know whether I can say it's the worst year that I had in policing. Because there were goods and bads about it, but it was a bad year. And certainly some things that affected me quite deeply at the time. So we shall get to that tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow if you can join us. 33 years in 31 days, looking at 2003. And until then, have a safe evening, take care, stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.